We're looking at a single month in India, April 1976, and it's a month that was defined by a truly strange duality. You had the heat of a looming summer, of course, but also the heavy weight of a political atmosphere that had completely changed the rhythm of daily life. The country was then in the 10th month of what was known as the emergency. Now, on the surface, life seemed to carry on, but underneath it all, a very profound political shift was happening, and it created a tension that could be felt everywhere. For a lot of people, the grand cinema halls became much more than just a place for entertainment. They were, in fact, the last remaining public spaces where the collective roar of a crowd, its cheers, its gasps, its sighs, was still allowed. And this brings us to the actual nature of that enforced silence and the political realities that were shaping it. So what was the emergency? Well, it was a 21-month period where the usual democratic norms were suspended. Civil liberties were significantly curbed, elections were postponed, and the nation was placed under a very centralized and powerful rule. One of the key instruments of control was this: the Prevention of Publication of Objectionable Matter Act. Its implementation had a truly chilling effect on the press. Newsrooms became places of cautious whispers and a great deal of self-censorship. You see, information itself was being managed. This image here is a good illustration of how the free flow of news was locked down, leaving the public with only a very carefully curated version of events. But some events are just too big to be entirely suppressed. And on April 19th, in the heart of Old Delhi, the simmering tensions of the time erupted into tragedy at a place called Turkmengay. The incident itself was a combination of several controversial government programs happening all at once. And while the official press was largely silent on the matter, the memory of the demolitions and the police action that followed, well, that became a whispered story, one that really defined the anxieties of the time. So this leads to a pretty fundamental question. In a climate of such domestic friction with all these controlled narratives, where could an entire nation find a moment of uncomplicated collective joy? Well, the answer, remarkably, came from thousands of miles away, on a cricket pitch. This incredible victory, against all the odds, forms a very different part of the story of April 1976. 406. Just look at that number. This was the target score set for the Indian cricket team. Now, in the context of Test cricket at the time, this was a figure that most experts considered a mathematical impossibility to chase down in the final innings. And yet, on April 12th in Port of Spain, playing against the most dominant, most feared team in the world, India achieved the impossible. It was a world record chase that absolutely stunned the cricketing world. The victory itself was built on some extraordinary individual performances. You had these masterful centuries from Sunil Gavaskar and Gandappa Vishwanath that anchored the whole thing, and it led to what was, at that time, the highest successful run chase in the entire history of the sport. News of this amazing victory came back home over the radio waves. And this wasn't just a sporting triumph. For a nation that was grappling with so many internal tensions, it served as a much-needed psychological lifeline, a rare and unambiguous reason for everyone to celebrate together. At the very same time, the complexities of Indian life were being reflected and refracted through another powerful medium, the cinema. You can see on this slide there was a sort of dual movement happening in film. That April saw the release of Do Anjani, which helped cement Amitabh Bachchan's angry young man persona. That character offered a kind of catharsis for a public that felt powerless. But simultaneously, filmmakers like Shyam Benegal were proving that a large audience also existed for the gritty realism of what was called parallel cinema. And behind the scenes, the media landscape itself was changing. Doordarshan, the national broadcaster, had recently separated from All India Radio. It was beginning to introduce more structured commercial advertising, and in doing so, it was sowing the seeds of a consumer culture that would eventually redefine the Indian middle-class household. So how then do we begin to understand this month of such deep contradictions? Well, it really represents a nation in a moment of profound and very complex transformation. This quote, I think, summarizes the core duality of April 1976 perfectly. It was a period marked by the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, often happening at the very same time. Ultimately,
This single month reveals a nation in the throes of deep change. It was caught between a fading past and the uncertain, often turbulent dawn of its modern identity, a place where moments of incredible glory and profound grief could exist side by side.
This was brought to you by Stalzer Circle. Thank you for listening.